going off camera a bit in that one though. This is the first one, a first fun little shape. I just thought it was kind of a fun little puppy nose type of shape. I do not think this will be my final product. I think that I will continue playing around with different shapes, maybe entirely changing the shape of the beak. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. Okay, here's the next beak shape. This is kind of more of a bird of prey beak shape. This is just the top half. I will probably only be doing top halves, just because that's really the only part I really feel like sculpting. This is just to show off, sort of proof of concept. As you can see, obviously, if you were to use this, you'd have to be careful of where you place the plastic because, as you can see, the rod holes don't exactly line up. But that would be easily fixed by just shaving off some of these pieces of plastic right here that extended over the edge of the beak. It does dry clear white. I forgot to mention that about the plastimelt beads when I first started talking about them. But if you're customizing your Furby, you could definitely paint over this. Or maybe if you wanted a fun ghostly look, you could leave it. But, yep, there's that shape. There's that. Yep, so on to the next. Another cool thing that I just figured out is that the plastimelt will neatly separate from the Furby beak with no damage to either. This could be a problem if you wanted maybe a permanent fixture that didn't wrap all the way around or have some point to hook onto it, like the beak here does. But this was meant as a non-permanent thing. If you did want it to be permanent or maybe just last longer, you could absolutely use super glue or any type of adhesive. Or you could maybe even rough up the surface of the beak so that there's better adhesion. But honestly, I would probably just go with super glue if you wanted it to be a permanent fix. This one is more of a, of a sort of seed style, seed eater type of beak. Different than the bird of prey, or maybe, if you wanted to, I guess it could be a macaw. As you can see, this bottom part is having a bit of trouble sticking. That's because while I was sculpting, there was a bit of water that got in between the beak and the plastimelt. But again, if this was permanent, then you could easily use super glue or even maybe rough up the beak. This one's sticking fine. I haven't used any adhesive, obviously, and there's none really wrapping around. It just really molded to the shape of it well. And then there you go, and it pulls right off. Okay, for this one, I just wanted to mention really quickly that I did add more beads to my total plastimelt used. Just wanted to mention that so that you didn't get confused about why there was suddenly so much more plastic. Next, there's this little, a bit more detail of a puppy nose. I gave it the little puppy lips style. I gave it the little indentations for the nostrils, and I gave it the little three-face type shape. I think this one is pretty good. It obviously wouldn't work functionally because it's definitely too much plastic for the faceplate. But the good thing about this stuff is if you were to decide to make it permanent and you need to make some small fixes, it is carvable when it's dry. It's obviously very malleable when it's, I guess not dry, cooled would be the better word for it. You can carve it after it's cooled and hardened. So that makes for easy, quick fixes, and maybe if you just wanted to add some texture that you weren't really able to do while it was wet. Well, hot. Okay, as you can see, I got the beak back on there. I forgot to talk about this one. It's definitely a little bit too flat, but I was going for maybe a duck-style beak. If I added some more bridging... Whoops. Sorry about the odd angles and stuff. I can't see my screen too well. But I imagine if you did some more bridging and sort of built up, rather than just having it be more flat, it would be more of a fun duck-style beak. For this one, I am actually going to go ahead and reassemble the beak because I want to test how easy or maybe how hard it is to put the skin back on the Furby while there is a larger beak on there. You can see that worked pretty well. The faceplate isn't exactly tight on there. I did not, if you watch the video, I did not add the screws in simply because I'm going to be taking this right back off because it is still a little damp and I don't want to risk it drying and maybe shrinking or even damaging the internals. I just needed it really for this shot. One issue that I do immediately notice is the faceplate doesn't seem to be as tight as it used to be. I can definitely see more of a gap. What may need to be done is, as you can see, I'm trying to get a good shot in there. The excess plastic, the faceplate isn't made for that, obviously, as this is a sort of aftermarket modification. So my solution would probably be to, I guess, what you could do is mark out where the faceplate starts to come in and cover up the plastic of the beak, and that would kind of be your working area. So a good place for you to, whoops, put any extra plastic that you wanted to. For this plastimelt technique, I really think that it has a wide variety of applications for Furby customization. You could definitely add it to faceplates if you desired. Maybe in booms, you could add it to the feet. You could give your Furby talons. I do know that people use clay, and I think compared to clay, I do think that this is better. Clay has the possibility of shattering, flaking pretty easily, depending on what kind of clay you use. If you use polymer clay, then there's obviously less of a likelihood of that. I do think plastimelt is fun and easy. It's easy to get a hold of. You can order some offline. This stuff that I got actually came with a set of vampire teeth for Halloween, so I just had that left over and I started wondering. I think there's a lot of potential. I've never seen anybody talk about it before in regards to custom Furby beaks. But, you know, I showed you a couple different shapes, and I think there's a lot to be done with it. I would love to actually use it on one of my Furbies in the future. But for now, this is more of a proof of concept, and I'm excited to see what you all think.